Miss, Mr. President, are you prepared to go to trial on March 25th?
So thank you very much. Everything that I've heard and read, even from legal scholars, said there's absolutely no case here. It's not a crime. This is not a crime. And when you look at what's going on outside the streets, where violent crime is at an all-time high, I think it's it's a great double standard. The other thing, this case could have been brought 3 years ago. There is no case. They decided not to bring it. District Attorney Bragg didn't want to bring it. He said he doesn't want to bring this case. But it's not a crime. We're here for something that is not a crime. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. What it is election interference. It's being run by Joe Biden's White House. His top person was placed here in order to make sure everything goes right. This is a terrible time for our country. This is a real dark period for our country. His top person, Colangelo and some others, have been placed into the DA's office to make sure they do a good job of election interference. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. With all of this being said, I look outside, I look at the streets, it's so different from when I left New York. It's so different. It's dirty and it's crime-ridden. And today you walk down the street, you get mugged or you get shot, and they're doing this where literally legal experts, legal scholars said they don't understand it. There's no crime. And there was no crime here at all. This is just a way of hurting me in the election because I'm leading by a lot. We're leading by numbers that nobody's ever seen before. And they figure this is their way of cheating this time. Last time they had a different way. This time they have something that's really down and dirty that frankly, no country does other than a third world country, a banana republic. So we're going to do our process. They want to rush it because they want to get it desperately before the election. And if it goes before the election, that's what they want to do. They don't care. After the election, they wouldn't have brought this except for the fact, no way, except for the fact I'm running for president and doing well. If I were doing poorly, they wouldn't have brought it. And frankly, if I didn't run, they would have been extremely happy because they don't like me running and they don't like the numbers. The poll numbers have us beating him by a lot. So that's where we are. I'll talk to you later after. We don't know what's going to happen. We want delays. Obviously, I'm running for election. How can you run for election and be sitting in a courthouse in Manhattan all day long? I'm supposed to be in South Carolina right now, where other people are and where, again, this is where I should be. I shouldn't be in a courthouse for something that virtually every legal scholar says they don't understand it, there's no crime. Even if he was guilty of something, there's no crime. So I will say that enjoy it. It's a sad thing. It's a sad day for New York. They really do. Look, I love the city and I love the state. They have to focus on violent crime that's taking place outside. You have a new form of crime now. You have migrant crime. Migrants are trying to beat up our police officers. They're trying to do things that we've never seen before, actually. We are going to have a problem with, I call it Biden migrant crime. Because you have millions of people came into this place, this country that has been so badly hurt. And they're doing things that nobody's ever seen before. So you have violent migrant crime, and they're after me for doing nothing wrong. You know, I paid almost $300 million in taxes over the period of time. $300 million. Then they say, oh, let's get Trump out. You have people that, everything is politics in this city, including decisions and judges and everything else. It has to straighten out, and they have to focus on violent crime, not made-up crime. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Mr. President, can you expand on your NATO comments?
Donald Trump manipulating the moment. A campaign stop on his way inside a Manhattan court where he is facing charges, local charges, New York charges, not federal charges, despite what he said. Ellie holding a quick fact check on the legal matters.
So first of all, we have to address the tired and tiresome claim that this is all coming out of the Biden White House. This is a state case. There's zero evidence whatsoever that Joe Biden or the administration had anything to do with this prosecution. Second of all, Donald Trump said, quote, this is not a crime. There's a fair debate about how serious this is, but this is a crime if proven as alleged in the indictment. There's some question about whether it would be just a misdemeanor, falsification of business records, or a higher level felony. But under any reasonable construction, if proven, this is a crime. And the third thing Donald Trump said that I noted is he said there's absolutely no case here. This is a debatable case. It will be tried to a jury, but this is a case that has a good faith basis. There's a basis of fact in the indictment. It'll be up to a jury.
Okay, from New York to Georgia, Fulton County.
Of course, we are monitoring right now this hearing that is happening in Georgia. You can see the defense and the prosecutors there both making their arguments, but we do want to bring you an important update that is happening in the courtroom here in New York and Manhattan in the first criminal case that was brought against former President Donald Trump. We have just learned the judge has rejected Trump's request to dismiss this case against him, and they have set a date. March 25th will be the first criminal trial, based on what we know right now, against former President Donald Trump. He was indicted last March on 34 counts of falsifying business records, ultimately arguing that that was an illegal campaign contribution on the prosecutors, according to the prosecutor's argument. And now we have learned March 25th will be the date of that court case, and Paula Reed and Kristen Holmes are here with me outside of this courthouse. Obviously, this was a long shot bid, but I think what's key is what Trump said right before he went into that courtroom, basically knowing that this was going to happen, is he said he's also going to seek to delay this date that it was just set.
That's exactly right, and that's what they're doing right now. Even though the judge said, look, jury selection is going to start on March 25th, his lawyer, Todd Blanche, is advocating for a delay. He's calling it, quote, a grave injustice to begin the trial then. And he says it is a completely different landscape for President Trump, since, of course, there have been additional indictments since this one came down. Not only is he juggling these other criminal cases, but also a campaign. And you and I were talking earlier. I had two questions, right? Will we get a date? Well, we have a date now. We'll see if it sticks. And then how will Trump behave? And it was clear from his remarks that he's going to turn this case into a campaign rally. He is going to cry election interference, and I expect that we'll probably hear from him every day talking about how unfair this case is.
And I will say, Trump's team does not want to go to trial. Anyone who tells you differently is not being honest with you. Sorry about that. But if they are going to go to trial in a criminal case, this is the one that they want, because they believe that they can paint this as political. Now, there's no cameras in the courtroom. It's going to require him making remarks, but he owns properties here. He's going to be in New York. This is the case they believe is the most impactful that they can paint as political.
Well, and I think one important part, though, is Trump did make a point outside of the courtroom, when he said multiple things that were not true and claiming that this is election interference, when it's essentially the reverse that is being argued against him. Obviously, a tried and true tactic of his to accuse people of what he himself is accused of. But he did say that there is no crime at the heart of this. And making a hush money payment is not inherently illegal. But the new and novel theory that is being tested and going to be tested potentially as soon as March 25th is Alvin Bragg's argument here that because he falsified business records to make a payment that was related to his campaign by paying off Stormy Daniels, that it was an illegal campaign contribution.
That's right. And sources close to the prosecution side say they view this as an election interference case, because they say that these payments were made to help Donald Trump's chances in the 2016 election, and therefore this was a campaign contribution and should have been documented as such, which is why he's charged with falsifying business records. Look, that's an open question. Intelligent minds disagree about whether they will ultimately prevail on that legal theory, even in front of a friendly Manhattan jury. Now, unlike our colleagues down in Georgia, of course, we don't have cameras in the courtroom. We are relying on updates from our colleagues inside the courthouse, and it's interesting because they're talking about how there have actually been conversations between this judge and Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's the judge overseeing the federal case in D.C. And it's going to be interesting to see if Trump picks up on that, because that's completely reasonable for two judges to talk about, hey, I had a trial scheduled. Of course, the January 6th case has been moved. This one, they're hoping to go forward. It's going to be interesting to see if Trump now starts to accuse the judges of any sort of collaboration, because this is becoming really a topic of discussion, where they can put this on the calendar, the fact that there's been coordination.
And what what we're reading, this live feed right now, is that they are arguing against this March 25th trial date. Trump's attorneys are saying that that would be a grave injustice, as they called it, talking about that March 4th trial date that was initially set by Judge Chutkan in the federal election interference case, which is now off the books. They're using that, even though right now we don't know when that trial is going to happen. Right. They're arguing that this shouldn't start on March 25th because of a trial date that now no longer exists.
Yeah, that they don't even know when it will happen. I mean, remember, they were celebrating when that came off the books, because that was a case that they were also very concerned about. That is a federal case in D.C. that they believe she wants to bring before the election, and that they believe could cause problems for Donald Trump. I do want to point out one other thing that Trump said here, because we're talking about using these as campaign stops. I mean, one of the things he said was that he could be out in South Carolina campaigning. Well, he actually could be.
He doesn't have to be here
yeah,
today.
they waived his appearance to be here. He doesn't have to be here. And by the way, after this, he's going back to Florida for days. So he's not going to South Carolina right after this. He's choosing to be here, choosing to use these legal appearances as campaign stops.
This is interesting. We're getting some updates from our colleagues inside. This is the way we're getting this information. And the judge just cut off Trump's attorney as they're sparring about the scheduling, saying, look, you don't have a trial date in Georgia. True, they're currently talking about possibly disqualifying the prosecutor. She says you don't have a trial date in Florida, which is expected. There is one on the calendar. It's expected to be pushed back. And he doesn't have a trial in D.C. So the judge is just rejecting this argument from Trump's lawyers that they can't go to trial in this case in late March.
John, a notable moment. I mean, we are 46 minutes into this when we started this hour talking about the moment here and what this